Welcome everybody to another episode of Talking Sam. I'm your host, Sam Macias, and with me today is another YouTube reactor that is taking the YouTube world by storm on the rise, like so many others. She is the one, the only Morgan Terry. Morgan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for letting me be here and let me do this. This is very different, and I'm looking forward to what this entails.
Absolutely, no problem. Now, have you ever been interviewed before? Just wondering.
um, I have been once. It was mostly to talk about like fandom stuff with other
Hmm.
people, and it wasn't just me. So like this is kind of new to me. So yeah,
Okay.
we'll see how well I handle this.
Nah, no problem. This is everybody because I was seeing you and so many others just growing in their channel by just doing the reactions. And I was telling your friend Elijah the other day, so many reactors are just on there and just like they go through the motion. They're not expelling how they feel about the show. So
Mhm.
when people go on there, just like, why am I watching this? I feel so bored. I feel as bored as the person watching the show. And then when we watch people like you, like Elijah, and so many others, like Real Rejects, they express their emotion. We see how the show affects them. What when you first started, was that kind of like one of your like focal points on making sure you're getting this thing started?
See, like getting into it, I just kind of did it on a whim one day.
Hmm.
For Steven Universe was my first one I did, and I just kind of did it on a whim. I saw other people do it, and I'm like, oh well, I could do that because I'm very expressive about shows I like, things like that.
Right.
And I've actually like grown in my like ability to show expression because when I first started off, there were bits and pieces, or sometimes I would even just sit through and just watch and not react that much. But throughout the years, I've gotten more comfortable like expressing my emotions and things like that. And I think I've become more sensitive as well. Because I cry a lot more often now for some reason. Um,
You are a crier. I've seen your videos. You are a crier.
I am. I have a lot of pent up stuff that just comes out when I watch shows, and it just the shows that I watch, a lot of them have a way of just digging into that emotion and just making you feel, and it all just comes rushing to the surface despite how hard you try to keep it in.
True.
Because I've tried, believe it or not. But yeah, like starting off, I was not that great, but for some reason people it was like getting a lot of views. The majority of the comments were nice, and I had no idea what I was doing. A lot of my first videos actually got blocked and taken down because I would just
Oh.
upload the full thing because I didn't know
Oh.
anything about it. So a lot of the first reactions are actually gone from my channel. But yeah, it's been a learning process to say the least.
Now, going to the beginning of your channel, just doing my background on you, you did a lot of a tribute videos on like characters from Teen Titans. I seen the show Hey Arnold is very important to you. What was kind of the so what started off your inspiration on YouTube doing the tribute videos? Is it something you want to do as a hobby or?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I got really big into Hey Arnold's my freshman year of high school, and
Mhm.
that's when I actually started doing videos. But because of copyrights and the company that owns Hey Arnold, I think it's Viacom, um,
Yeah.
they took down a lot of videos like from early on. I think I started in 2011, and then I throughout my high school years, I just had a thing of revisiting shows from my childhood because I like that gave me comfort because I went through a lot of like rough stuff in high school,
Mhm.
and just reverting back to like my childhood shows like brought me some semblance of comfort. And I'm a big ship person. I love ships, so a lot of the videos I would do would be shipping videos, just because I just loved the characters so much. And being like a single, little like gay lesbian that was, alone, I was like, well, at least these fictional characters could be together and I could put a cute song and this and that. And yeah, I didn't really think about doing anything other than AMVs really until the whole Hey Arnold the Jungle Movie movement was brought to my attention the end of freshman year, and I joined the Facebook group and became part of the movement until we actually got we convinced Nickelodeon to create the Jungle Movie. And
Oh.
I was doing like updates on it on my channel. Like I
Mhm.
went from AMVs to updates, and that's when I started showing my face for the first time. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, but I also learned a lot through all that editing on like how to like edit, because a lot of people when they see reaction videos, they don't understand how to edit it and like how to change opacity, cut away from this and that. And doing AMVs for that long helped me a lot with
Uh-huh.
that whole process. Like it taught me the skills I needed. I didn't know that's what I needed for the reaction videos when I first started, which is why it kept getting taken down. But once I
Mm.
had gotten like the gist of it, I was able to, more easily put it in place.
Okay. Now you said when you were doing one of those videos, the updates for Hey Arnold, the movie, the Jungle one, it was when you began putting your face on camera. Did you try when you first started doing this avoid putting your face on camera, and just doing only voiceover and just doing the tribute videos, or was it something kind of like a fear you have to overcome?
Um, well, I never really expected like a lot of people to watch my stuff. And back then they didn't. Like I would
Right.
usually get like a couple thousand views on the update videos. It would usually be like teasers that were leaked or whatever and my thoughts on it. I don't even know if they're still up on the channel to be honest, but yeah, it was sorry, I just like lost my train of thought halfway through. I do this all the time. It's so
Hey,
annoying.
you're good. Don't worry about it. You're good.
Um Oh, but yeah, like a lot of people didn't see it, so I didn't really have to worry about, being bullied or anything. And a lot
Right.
of the comments were mostly nice, so I didn't really. And I've always kind of liked being on camera because I don't know, it's just like different for me. Like even as a kid, like I wasn't really someone that like did like plays or anything that would like demand attention of me, but I always kind of liked attention.
Hmm.
Um, so it was like kind of giving into that. We're like, oh well, people can see me and maybe they'll like me and this and that. And yeah, it was kind of like mixed emotions because there was that fear of like, what if people don't like me? And especially back then, I was a huge people pleaser. I cared so much about what everyone thought, and so there was like that nervousness of it. But yeah, it really wasn't that bad, surprisingly, and it was something I kind of overcame. I'm still a little like nervous on camera, and I think that comes through in some videos where I'm just like a nervous wreck about everything. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's definitely something like that has to be worked out through over time, I think.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. And just seeing how you are now, it's just almost night and day to watching your old videos and to how you are now.
Mhm.
I can still see kind of like the timid nervousness because that's who you are as a person.
Yeah.
But but you can really see the evolution of your growth. One thing I do see on your channel was you're doing speed paintings, kind of like tutorials on drawings. What's some of your background towards that? What was kind of your creative background in drawing?
Well, I started taking art seriously in like my freshman year of high school. I
Hmm.
mostly just like drawing cartoon characters. Again, Hey Arnold, Kim Possible, Danny Phantom. And a lot of the time when I would draw in school, people would come up to me and be like, "Well, how do you do that?" and this and that. And I would like try and teach them. And then once I kind of like thought, "Oh, maybe I'll put this on my YouTube channel," like uh just let the fandom or whatever fandoms they might see it. I know, so I watched a lot of other people's stuff and it kind of inspired me to try it.
Uh-huh.
um and some of the tutorials weren't that great. I don't think mine were that great either, to be completely honest, because it was something I just started doing. But yeah, it was, I don't know, it was interesting, and I kind of fell away from that just because it took a lot of time and effort. And uh the reactions started picking up for me, so I'm like, well, there's no real audience for this. So it's still like the drawing and things, there's something I do in my free time. I did originally want to go to school for animation, but because Connecticut has no animation or really art schools, uh
Uh-huh.
and I didn't have the money to go away to school in a different state, and I didn't know how to apply for colleges because no one in my family knew how, and my high school didn't teach us or anything. So I just kind of went to community college and got my graduate in, what was it? It was my associates in visual fine arts. So I just kind of
Okay.
settled for that. But I think eventually I do want to actually go into animation just because it's something that's always fascinated me, even at a young age, with all the cartoons and like the more recent things I'm getting into, like Hell of a Boss and
Yeah.
Has Been Hotel, and like all of these like indie animations where people are doing it from the comfort of their homes and like creating something together has always fascinated me since being introduced to this world. And I would just love to be a part of something like that, but it's a matter of, getting the equipment, getting the
Hmm.
education on how to do it. It's a whole thing, but eventually I would like to think I'll eventually get up there, but we'll see.
If you have the right mindset, absolutely you can. Um, and I think you do. You mentioned you're watching the indie animation shows that are on YouTube right now. Do you think of going back into school to maybe get the higher degree, to maybe get your food planning more into that indie animation to get you more of a background to it, or are you looking for another outlet?
I don't even really know at this point. This has been something I've been struggling with lately where I'm like,
Hmm.
I want to go back to school, but at the same time, like animation doesn't pay that well, and you get into so much debt if you go to one of those fancy art schools. Um,
Yeah.
I I did actually talk to someone that worked on Hasbin Hotel, and she pointed me in the direction of like an online course I could take,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's very demanding. It's like 5 days a week, multiple hours, and
Oh, wow.
YouTube isn't my full-time job. I work overnight shift. So it's like from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. I'm working, and then I come home, I try and edit videos, and I just don't have the time. And
Hmm.
I also can't really afford it right now because, life's just a nightmare constantly, like throwing things your way where you're like, oh, you have to spend money on this and that and this and that.
Yep. Hmm.
And with all the fandoms that I'm in, and I have no self control, when I see a cute like enamel pin, I have to buy it because it brings me like a little bit of happiness for like 5 seconds, but it's worth the $40. Um, but yeah, it's I want to get back into it, but it's just like I don't know how to explain it because like funny enough, my YouTube friends the other night were giving me crap about this. They're like, Morgan, you need to just do it. You need to just do it. I'm like, listen, okay, I can't just do it. I'm in my head, this and that. And they're like, it's all your mindset, this and that. And they're trying to
Hmm.
give me like words of affirmation. I'm like, I don't
Right.
want your words of affirmation right now.
I live in the world of reality, damn it.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, they're like, you need to just believe in yourself, this and that. I'm like, every time I've tried, it hasn't worked out, this and that. So, um, this sounds so much of a downer. I don't want to
No,
sound
no,
like
no, no, please. It's because no, honestly, we do hear a lot of YouTubers. They do have their channel. They do have a channel that's grow, but they also do work like you said, 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 regular day shift, and that's just a way of life. So now some people aren't able to do it full time, but we do. You guys are still able to go on YouTube and have that creative outlet to be yourself. I
Mhm.
was speaking to your friend Elijah, not so average fangirl, the other day. You give us this kind of like this outlet to escape the real world. It's that escapism that we search for, because if we stick too much in the real world, we just lose our minds and go completely nuts.
Yeah, that's valid. That's very valid. I've actually gotten people send me messages now and then that are just like, "Thank you so much for what you do." Whenever I have a bad day, I turn on your videos, this and that, and it does mean a lot because I just did this as like a stupid little hobby that, like, oh, maybe people will find this entertaining, and then it became something to where like it just changed people's lives, and people are so grateful, and I'm like, I should be grateful to you guys because without you guys, there's no channel, and I don't know, it's like a surreal experience, especially when people like really get into like their personal struggles and like how certain things or how when I say something it really hits with them and they can relate, and even just like the expression of emotions a lot of people
Hmm.
thank me for because a lot of people are judged for being emotional, and
Yeah.
so I get a lot of the "oh, thank you for showing your emotions" messages because I'm probably the biggest crier, especially in the Owl House community. um, but yeah, it's nice getting those messages and knowing that you have an effect on people's lives and you can make them somewhat better, even if it's just for 20 minutes at a time.
No, hey, absolutely, definitely. You mentioned just a bit ago that you do, like you say, you do work a regular 9 to 5, Monday to Friday job, and you do the channel. How important to you is it to make sure you have time for yourself? Because sometimes doing everything, there's not a lot of time for you to make sure, like um, mental state is at check, and making sure you yourself are in a good state. Have you been learning to manage your time since the channel's been growing?
Not really, to be completely honest. I think that's apparent to people in my upload schedule because there is no schedule.
Okay.
Um, I try and do at least one video a week, ideally two. But because I work night shift and I'm there
Hmm.
from 8 at night until 5 in the morning, being awake all night really messes with you. It's much different than working like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And a
Right.
lot of people don't understand that. And it's like, guys, I'm exhausted when I get home. I don't even want to like talk to anyone. I just go in my room and contemplate my life for a couple hours. And it's hard because like I'm not even working full time, but they're scheduling me just under full time.
Hmm.
um and it's like I'm exhausted from that, and then I have all these videos I want to edit, but I have no motivation to do so because I get in my own head, especially like when you have a toxic work environment. It really
Yeah.
can get to you, and you're like, what's the point of doing this and that? But at the same time, you need that job because YouTube is so unreliable with the what's gonna, do well and what's not. You don't really ever really know.
Yep.
And so you got to pay your bills somehow. But then I'd come home in the morning, and most days I won't even edit. I'll save that for my days off where I'll like record, I'll edit, and whatever it may be. But if it's like a show that I know will do well, like The Owl House or even Hell of a Boss, I will stay up for my, if it's a day I'm working, I will stay up during the day, record, edit, and publish before I go into work. So I'll be up for sometimes 36 hours at a time trying to get an important video out because I know it'll do well. Whereas like new shows I'm starting or I'm trying to catch up on, it's harder to get done because there's not really, I don't know the demand for it yet. Or especially if it's a show that doesn't necessarily do as well as Owl House or Hell of a Boss or what's another one like Arcane.
Yeah.
It can be difficult. I'm sorry, what was the original? I derail so easily. What was the
No, no, no,
original
no, no,
question?
no. Oh no, I was just asking how do you manage like your time when you're
Oh,
trying to do everything? Yeah, because you got to make sure that you have time for yourself still. Because if you don't have time for yourself, you kind of lose everything. You, I'm saying time so much, you lose all your time you have.
yeah. Yeah. I relate to that a lot because I always either working my, overnight job or I'm
Hmm.
editing. I try, and when I need a break, I'll read like fanfics for a bit, or sometimes I'll draw. But I don't really have that much free time. And a lot of the free time I do have, I've recently been spending a lot of time in our freaking YouTuber like group chat because it's constantly going off and I'm getting distracted by that. And it's like now I have no free time. And yeah, it's very hard to do, and it's not something I've managed very well. Moscow, actually, we last react, she recommended a planner for me, and I'm like, I
Oh,
can't
okay.
even trust myself to keep up with the planner. So they're trying to help me, but I'm just like, I don't know. I'm kind of like a lost cause at this point where I'm like, I think I also need to be like tested, like to see if I have some
Mm,
type of like neurodivergent disorder because I have a hard time focusing on stuff and getting stuff done. And I'm very easily distracted. And I haven't like been like diagnosed or whatever, but once I get some better health care and can
right.
see like a doctor about it, I'm going to try and get diagnosed and hopefully get medicated or something if I
Hmm.
do have something so I can hopefully be more productive with my time and not get distracted easily. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Hey, hey, we've all been there. Like I have that. I have that issue too. Trying to stay focused on one thing, and then one thing next leads to another. I see a shiny object, and I start following
That's
that.
what is it with the shiny objects? I'm the same way. Like my enamel
I
pins in the corner of my room will catch my eye and I just start fiddling around with them. Like I don't like the placement of these things. It's
Well,
the weirdest.
we don't know what it is. We just it curious to us. So like, is it a friend? Is it a foe? We don't know.
Is it a friend? Is it a foe? Valid. That is exactly right.
um, yeah, are you comfortable saying what kind of 9 to 5 job that you have, or do you want to just keep that to yourself?
Oh yeah, I talk about it all the time. I work at overnights at Lowe's. I basically
Okay.
stock shelves and drive machines, this and that. I mostly work overnights because I can't deal with customers. I was a
Right.
cashier for 7 years at an orchard place, and it got to the
Okay.
point where I was just not, I could not do it anymore. I was making bad decisions, and I won't say exactly what I did, but I was like, I can't work with people anymore. It's becoming too much. So I started looking at overnight jobs, and it's better because you don't have to deal with customers. But it's
Right.
also worse because I've physically injured my back, and I have
Ooh.
a really bad back now. And actually, a couple weeks ago, I just bent over to pick up a box, And I was literally out of commission for a week. Like I couldn't even stand, I couldn't sit. I was laying in my bed for 4 days in a row. And it's like, so it's got like its perks, and it's also like super toxic because if you get hurt, they're like, you're not actually hurt, you're fine. Can you do this? Like I had just hurt my back, and that upcoming week, like, because I was supposed to cover, but I told him like I can't cover. I literally can't even stand up. So the first night I was back, he's like, so you're going to do the paint department tonight, and there's a pallet of 5-gallon buckets of paint that you have to put away. And it's like, that's like 50 to 60 pounds, and I can barely stand. So I don't know what you want from me, or if you want to cripple me for the rest of my life, but so I got my friend Davin to do it. He was kind enough to do it, but like the managers there, they just don't care about you. Like they're like, just get it done. You know, your safety. They, like during orientation, they're like, your safety's top priority, this and that, but they don't actually care.
That's what they have to say, you know. But shout out to Gavin. Gavin, his name?
Davin with a D.
Davin. Yeah, shout out to Davin for the help. Good on him.
Yeah,
we need more
he makes my whole he makes my whole work experience worth it. He just came back too because he'd quit as well. And I'd been back for about 5 months after I had just gotten back from quitting, and he just came back. And so like I'm like, it's a little bit better now because at least Davin's here and he cares about me. So yeah, he's a real one.
Oh yeah, definitely. So when you're going through, when you're first starting off and you're picking shows to watch, I'm looking at your channel. Star versus the Forces of Evil is kind of like your very first reactions that you did. What was kind of like your process you're thinking of when you're going through a show? Like, do I want to go by what's trending? Do I go by what my personal interests? Like, what's kind of like your mindset?
Well, when I started off, the very first videos I did was Steven Universe, but those got taken down. But some of them stayed up longer, but then the YouTube rules changed, and like a couple months or a year later they got taken down. But people were requesting Star versus the Forces of Evil, and I never heard of it. And so like I didn't think it was going to be something I'd be interested in. So I watched like I forget, like seasons 1 and 2, I think, or maybe 3. And because I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, but I ended up binging it, and I think season 4 came out. And that's when I started reacting to it, I believe. It was years ago. But yeah, people like a lot of the things I started reacting to back then were things people recommended to me, and I was like iffy about because I had a hard time back then starting new shows because that was the time I was still kind of in my like, you know, the mid 90s and early 2000s shows were the best. All this new stuff is garbage with the exception of like Steven Universe. And yeah, so I was like taking requests. People did the same thing with She-Ra. They recommended it to me. But the reason I didn't do She-Ra on my channel was because I didn't think I was going to like it because it had the word princesses in it. And I've had the freaking, you know, the toxic femininity shoved down my throat so much as a child that I just despised anything that was like girly girl princesses. So I refused to, but I kept seeing it all over Tumblr. And I was like, I'll just watch the show like off, you know, the channel and see what it's about. And this was season 1. And I watched season 1 and I was actually really into it. I'm like, this is really like the LGBT representation. I was like, I'm here for it. You know, I fell in love with Catra. I'm like, I love her. I love Adora and like even Entrapta. And so once season 2 came out, I started reacting to it on the channel. And then from She-Ra, it went into the Owl House because when She-Ra ended, everyone was like, you need to watch the show, The Owl House. And I thought people just kept misspelling like The Loud House. I'd never even heard of The Owl House. I was like, The Loud House looks like crap. Like, I don't want to watch that show. And but no, I looked it up and I started watching The Owl House. And then it's been kind of recommendations ever since. The way I do it now is if a lot of people are requesting a certain show, like right now, Murder Drones has been my new thing because a lot of people all of a sudden just started saying Murder Drones, Murder Drones, Murder Drones. So I was like, okay, usually if a lot of people request it, it does well. And it's been doing fairly well. Not as well as like, you know, Hell of a Boss or whatever. But still, it's doing better than, you know, my Infinity Train reactions I started and that type of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of like my go-to now where if I find something interesting or I want to react to something, I'll do it. But it's mostly based off of recommendations and like how many people are requesting it. Because it was the same way with Owl House and She-Ra. Like the very successful shows, I went based off of how many people were requesting it. and that seemed to work so far. So that's kind of like my rule of thumb for the most part.
Okay. And we're gonna get into the outhouse. Don't worry, we'll
Oh
get
yeah,
into the
I'm sure we will.
we will get into the outhouse. But yeah, when you starting shows off like a share, do you do research on its on like the previous shows, like on the He-Man universe, trying to understand going into it, or do you go in cold?
It really depends. Most things I like to go in as blindly as possible to get the most
Hmm.
genuine reactions. Um, but yeah, I didn't even know of He-Man. Like I didn't watch any of that stuff, or I didn't hear of any of it either.
Okay.
She-Ra was like a completely new show to me. I didn't even know it was like I didn't even know it was like a revamped version of what was it like the '80s show? I think
Yeah.
'80s.
So it was an '80s show, but then she was also He-Man's sister, so they would like put the shows together at points.
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember when I like was watching She-Ra and like it was like between like seasons and it was on a hiatus. I tried watching a single episode of the original like He-Man She-Ra thing. I couldn't do it. I was like, I'm losing brain cells. I can't get behind this. Um, but yeah, a lot of the stuff I don't really do research into unless it's something like I genuinely think I'm misunderstanding. Um, but for the most part, I just go in like completely blind, and a lot of times, some people will like give me like information I need to know ahead of time. Like for Murder Drones, people told me you need to pause a lot to catch all of the lore, and so
Yeah.
like I that's the reason I paused so much when I started those was because people were giving me like the heads up. So that type of stuff, like things from the viewers that hopefully aren't spoilers, I listen to. But that's pretty much all the research I really do.
Okay. Yeah, I started that Murderbot show, and it's if you look away for like a second, you miss like 10 things at once. It's that show goes fast, so fast, it's insane.
Oh, it really does. I was editing today the third episode, and
Uh-huh.
like I already edited the Patreon version, right? So I've already
Hmm.
watched it. Like I watched it for the reaction and the Patreon version. It's my third time watching it. Things now are sticking out to me where I'm like, well, now I gotta turn on my camera and let people know that I picked up on this and that. Otherwise, they're gonna get mad at me in the comments because it's like so much you're bombarded with so much at once that it's so easy to get like overstimulated where you like just zone out for a bit
Hmm.
like to try and recover, and that's something like with shows like this where I just miss certain things, and then when I'm like editing I'm like, how did I miss that? Like I feel like an idiot. Like how did I miss that? But yeah, Murder Drones is like a big example of like you need to pay attention to every single detail for it to make sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, Now that you see your channel grow into almost to what it is now, you mentioned you have a Patreon. What was kind of the your process when you were making your Patreon? Do you just want to put only your full reactions on there, or do you do like what others do, put like some other drawings, or if you want like a special thing, you'll go on there and to the Patreon? Like, what was your mind process when starting up the Patreon and also your merch store?
Oh yeah, I forgot about the merch store.
Hey, come on,
um
you need to make your green. Come on.
I know I gotta make more merch designs eventually, but the Patreon, I just basically asked people what they wanted. A lot of them were full reactions because back last year in like February, before I'd quit my job at Lowe's,
Hmm.
um, I was like in a really dark place, and my job was just not helping because the manager I had back then was even worse than the current one, and I was just like struggling so much, and I was like reaching out to people because I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. Like I feel hopeless, and people were telling me like quit your job and open up a Patreon and like offer full reactions and this and that. And so that's what I did. I mostly did what people requested. I also like for higher tiers, I would include because I draw a lot, so I would
Hmm.
include like the outlines of drawings I did as like coloring pages, so people could print them off at home and color them in for like stress relief if they wanted that. Um,
Hmm.
and then I had like a tier above that where I like occasionally send people stuff like pins or like prints, stuff like that. Um, and then there were like other tiers of like the $1 tiers, like supporting star, which I need to completely redo the Patreon. It's been something I've been meaning to do, but I just haven't had the time. I want to switch around like the prices, make it cheaper, edit certain things, open a Patreon only like Discord is what I'm planning on doing. Um, but yeah, it was just a way to make more money and try and pursue YouTube full time. Because I just really needed the break from lows and the like mental breakdowns every night,
Right.
essentially.
No, hey, no, that makes total sense right there. Sorry, I lost my train of thought now.
No, you're fine. This is perfect. We're now I don't feel as bad.
I know that doesn't happen to me, Morgan, and you have affected me with your loss of train of thoughts.
I'm contagious. You're welcome.
Very much so. This is a Last of Us sort of feel happening right here. Okay, let's go into probably one of the more popular shows on your channel for reactions, The Owl House. Now, it was recommended to you when you first got into it. What was kind of your initial thoughts to it? Did you thought, oh, okay, I can get into this? Or do you have to take like maybe a few episodes in before fully getting into it?
Usually when I start new shows, especially back then, it would take me a couple episodes, but right off the bat, like first 5 minutes, I was like, I relate to Luz so much because like you said, the way I started my channel, editing music clips to like cartoons and anime and this and that. So I was like, immediately I see myself in Luz. And I had a similar like backstory where like your parents are like they don't know how to deal with you, so they threaten to send you away. So I'm like, well, I felt that too. So it's like I immediately felt seen by Luz, and it was her like unapologetic, just being herself that really like drew me into the show. And it was the whole meaning of the first episode of like us weirdos have to stick together.
Yep.
And that just struck such a chord with me because like my whole life, like my best friends have been weirdos and we've always been the outcasts, but we've just enjoyed each other's company so much. And it just got better from there. Like the meanings in the show, the representation, all of that. It was just so easy to get sucked into the show immediately.
No, absolutely. Because I remember this show caught on my eye during the pandemic, and it was already after all the episodes for season 1 was done. Season 2 came on. I remember I talked to Rebecca Rose. You guys can listen to that interview. Talked to her about this, and just season 2 is just every episode after another. It gets better. Like every show has this like first few good, and okay, that one was not so good as the last, but the next one kind of makes up for it. Every episode after the other was just so good. It was insane.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, especially season 2, like every episode one up the last. It was like every episode I felt like I was saying, this is my new favorite episode. This is my new favorite episode. Like I was just a broken record because you just thought it was like top tier. And then the next week they would just hit you with something completely different. And you're like, well, no, now I love this episode the most. And it really made you feel crazy because you felt like you were changing your mind constantly, but it was just so hard not to appreciate them one-upping themselves every single time.
Oh, definitely. It was kind of like how House of the Dragon first season came out. Like each episode just did better than the last. It was insane.
I don't think I'm familiar with that show or have heard of it.
So it's a Game of Thrones spinoff on the now Max streaming service, no longer HBO Max.
Oh, they changed it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm still out of the loop with this stuff. It's not even funny.
Oh, don't worry about it. You're good. Now, you said you related so much to Luz just based on her character. How much added enjoyment did you get when you found out she's from Connecticut as well?
Oh my god, I was upset because my Discord server, one of my mods actually, they thought I was off that night, but I was actually working. So I avoided social media, but I was paying attention to my Discord server in case anything happened. And they posted a GIF of Luz being from Connecticut. I'm like, wait, she's from Connecticut? So like, I wasn't even like, I think I would have freaked out a lot more in the moment if I'd not been accidentally spoiled by one of my mods.
Oh man.
But I was like freaking out. And then people told me Dana Terrace was from Connecticut. I'm like, Dana Terrace is from Connecticut? Because Connecticut, we've got nothing. We've just got tragedy in our history. Like to be like, the only thing Connecticut's really known for is Sandy Hook. So it's like, it's nice that we have something positive like the Owl House and Dana Terrace that connects to Connecticut. But yeah, I was freaking out. And I still to this day, I'm like, I could be Luz's neighbor. I live in Connecticut. And funnily enough, I actually live in the middle of the woods. So I jokingly would go out and look for the hut with the portal door.
Oh, hey.
Like, take me with you.
You never know. Crazier things happen in the woods.
I know. As someone that lives in the woods, I see it all the time.
And next thing you know, you go out the woods, you see the headquarters of WWE right there. You're just like, oh hey,
There you go. You might find a little trash thief taking away
right.
your prized book and just follow it into a fantasy world of wonderful imagination.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You get lost in Sanford. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, I know my Connecticut. Okay,
Yeah,
I
I
know
was
the
surprised.
I know the headquarters up there with ESPN and WWE and all that.
Yeah, they're like, I think the ESPN, one of the network places, is literally like 20 minutes from my house. It's like
Oh wow.
insane. Yeah.
Now, as the show went on, how did you feel as a whole? The show finished as the story that we got, because obviously we know it got cut for season 3 due to reasons and them being victims of circumstance. They gave us a incredible season 3, which I don't think most shows could ever touch
Hmm.
on the level that they did. How do you feel as a whole, the story that they told us at what we got?
I was really satisfied with the way they handled everything. A lot of people complain about the timing and stuff, but I'm like, guys, you can't blame the show
Yeah,
for not being able to tie all these loose ends together. They literally thought, like, I think it was something like the Owl House was planned originally to be 5 seasons or something, and
really,
at the very least they expected a full season 3, and it's like
right,
you expect to cram 20 episodes worth of content into the equivalent of what would just be regularly like in total time like 6 or 7 episodes. Like you can't do it. And so like I didn't have a problem with the pacing or anything like that, because I'm like, they have to tie up all the ends they possibly can in the given time frame. And even what Dana got, she had to fight tooth and nail to get. So like the pacing isn't really an issue for me. The one thing I wish we got was like a Rain and Ida like kiss or I love you. I was really holding out hope for that just because I love those two so much.
right.
I was really holding out hope. But yeah, like everything else I loved. I loved the defeat of Belos.
Yep.
Um, and like I don't know, it was just so symbolic that like the people Belos hurt most were the ones
Hmm.
to get like the last word in, Luce ripping him out of the Titan's heart, Rain, Ida, and King stomping him to death.
It
It
was very
was
poetic at the end.
Yes, it was. And even like Luce like taking a step back and having no words for him just had like she just didn't buy into his crap anymore. And it's like good
Yep.
for you, Luce. Um Even the time jump had me in tears. I don't know what it is, but time jumps make me cry so bad. Um and yeah, just the way they ended it with the bye, just it was
Uh,
unnecessary for my emotions because
Now I'll tell you, when they did that buy, I was like, okay, I see what you did. I don't like it. I see what you did. There's some stuff coming out of my face. I appreciate what you did. I'm gonna
but
leave it
it
at
hurt.
that. Yeah.
Because it's literally like the realization of you think they're saying bye to the collector, and you're like, no, they're saying
Nah.
goodbye to us. And that's
And
when it hits you that it's over, and the tears just start to stream. I'm trying not to cry right now, just thinking about.
oh, oh boy, here
I
she's
know.
gonna blame me for this, guys. I was like, I'm trying. No, I was just having a
No,
conversation.
no, it's not Sam's fault. I'm just an emotional wreck. But yeah, like it was. I don't know. Like it was such a good ending, and like it ends so beautifully. And I don't know. It was just I loved at the end seeing a miserable Odalia like just being
Yep.
ignored, and then Kikimora being put to work. It's like, yeah, that's right. You freaking do the work and you shut up. Like,
Hmm.
oh, I couldn't stand her, but yeah, it was
She
just
got.
nice seeing, huh?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. My bad.
Oh no, you're fine. It was just nice seeing everyone get their like happily ever after of sorts.
No, definitely. like, and most shows don't. Most shows don't get that. They get the cut, and that's it. We just left wondering what if. Like, I don't know if you heard of the show Inside Boss on Netflix or
It's
Inside
been
Jobs on Netflix.
recommended, but I haven't actually
Yes.
watched it.
Like, okay, I'll let you know. First season, it's so it's so good to watch because it's kind of like they do the whole the trope of, oh, the shadow government inside of it and this and that, and they turn it up to 11 on like the it's kind of like an Archer kind of feel to it,
Hmm.
and they just go balls to the walls crazy everywhere, kind of like Hell of a Boss, but
Okay.
with Hell of a Boss, but like shadowy government, U.S. stuff, and all that. Like
Interesting.
if, yeah, like if the Stonehenge is real, Bigfoot is in HR because he screwed up doing the copyright again. So stuff like that.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but like people have recommended it to me, and I think like once like all these bigger shows die down, I'll give it a watch. But like just right now, I just haven't had time, or
Right.
I've had other priorities. But yeah, I plan to eventually watch it.
Yeah, yeah. I honestly think you'll enjoy it.
I probably will.
Now, yes, you will. We see you see your channel grow. You see other videos do better than the others. What do you have? What do you put that in your mind? It's like, okay, this video it doesn't do as many as others. Do I have to pivot into a different direction when editing, or do I have to go, or do you have to go? Is there a different process of me posting videos?
It's kind of hard because like the YouTube algorithm, we have like this group with a bunch of YouTubers, and it's not even just like the five of us normal ones. There's smaller YouTubers that are in a different chat, and we're constantly exchanging like what we think we know about the YouTube algorithm. But at the end of the day, I don't think anyone really understands how the algorithm works. Even YouTube people, like the people that work at YouTube, I don't think they understand. Um, but it's hard because like you get people that request a show and then you do the show and then people don't watch the show. And it's not even just me. I know the third bill has also had an issue with this, and even Elijah had a problem with this with certain shows. I think it was Kipo.
Yeah, she mentioned that like Universal tried to like took down a couple of her videos, and it was a fight for her trying to get it back. It was.
Yeah, that's another thing too, because like with the copyright thing, it just makes you
Mhm.
want to do videos even less when they're being extra painful. But yeah, it's I don't know, because like with Infinity Train, they only get like a couple thousand views per video, and it's like I'm at 30, like I'm at over 30,000 subscribers at this point. It's like I can't afford to do a series that does that poorly. So I don't know how I'm going to handle that. I think right now I'm just going to put the pause on it until either other people start reacting to it and the
Right.
fandom growth gets back into it. Um, but yeah, like right now, like certain things just aren't worth my time, especially if they're not doing well. And if I think they could be put on pause, if it's not something I'm super interested in, because if I'm really into a show, I don't care how well it does, I will just watch it. That's how it was when I first started Shira, because Shira didn't do that well when I first started it. It would only get like maybe 4 or 5 thousand views until like season 5 came out, and then everyone went back and rewatched my stuff. So that's like when those videos started to do better. But like Infinity Train, while I do like it, it's not like I'm dying to see what happens in the next episode. So I've kind of put a pause on that. But yeah, it really depends on like which show it is, how into it I am, if I continue it, if I put it on pause. Editing wise, I just kind of I took a hiatus for like 2 months from November to like January
Hmm.
because my mental health was just awful. It was like my normal depression on top of the seasonal depression. So I just couldn't bring myself to do the YouTube stuff. So when I came back, I decided to start like editing a little bit more, like put in funny edits or like close ups or zoom in because there was a point, especially towards the end of like when I started getting burnt out in November, where I would just clip the reaction video and not really do anything to it. You could kind of
Hmm.
tell I was like falling off. I was losing the enthusiasm to do it. So now
Yeah.
I try and make them as entertaining as possible. I also have my awesome video editor Spywhy that helps me out like with a couple of videos a month. And his way of doing the reactions is so funny. Like he puts in bits and the text, and he zooms in and zooms out. And he actually made an animated GIF the other day of the Gravity Falls one I sent him, and he's just so funny, and he really takes the pressure off. So that's also helpful to have. And I think it's also a nice treat for people to get a different style of editing that I don't have to do, but I could let someone else have like free reign over how they want to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It depends on like how much time I have. If I could put the extra time into adding funny bits, this and that. But yeah, for the most part, I try and keep it pretty consistent. There was a big change between last year and this year because now I put more effort into it because there's not as many videos because it's not my full-time job anymore.
Right.
Um, but yeah, Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that, I think.
And no problem, no problem with that. You mentioned you're in a group chat with some other YouTubers who are going through what you're going through, just mentally or channel wise. How important is that to keep that to keep close with other people that are going through what you're going through, and just reaching out to them as a safety line, just like, hey, this is kind of really hitting me hard. It's like, what do you do? Is stuff like that? How important is that to keep that close to you to make sure you have someone that understands and going through what you've been going through?
It's so important. Like, that's something people don't understand. Like, when you do YouTube, you can't talk about this stuff to people in your day-to-day life that don't understand it. Like when I was doing it full time, no one in my family understood the stuff I was talking about or how I was struggling with stuff. And back then we didn't have this group.
Mm.
This group just came to fruition, I want to say in like January. Um, the big one with Elijah, Moscow, the Third Bill, Tomato Sauce, Playing with Heart, and me. But the smaller one is consisted of now I'm drawing a blank. We jokingly call him Darkrai, but he goes by usually intros his videos with Diego. Um,
Okay.
and then there's So Everdream, and there's Mikey Venture, and Moscow
Mm.
made that one as well. We last. And so like that's the smaller one where like we're under like 100,000, so we just kind of like help each other out, or like if we need to vent about something, or like we share stupid comments, like rude comments people leave us, and we just
Hmm.
like give each other affirmations that people are just being jerks and it's not true. Or even like technical issues, like especially like people that are just starting out, sometimes with the copyright they have a hard time, so I try and give them advice, because I actually had a hard time with that, and that's how I got talking to Elijah. Was everyone was reaching out to me and being like, hey, I noticed you have to blur your videos, or you have to change the opacity, or they kept getting taken down. They're like, reach out to Not So Average Fangirl, she knows how to do it, because she has the full like she has the like she doesn't have to edit her clips or change the opacity or anything. So I reached out to her, and that's when the actual like footage of the shows was able to be shown without a ton of editing and all that crap. So like I've kind of shared that advice with them, because like the community we've created, like the little like reactors community we have, we try and share info with each other. We don't like gatekeeping, because
Right.
we understand YouTube likes to pin YouTubers against each other, and it's kind of like a competition kind of thing, but we don't like to see it
Yep.
that way. We like to share like tidbits of information. Like even Elijah, I'm able to help sometimes. She usually knows more than me, but if she's struggling with something, like a thumbnail, I think it was, I was like, there's like a website where you could just put in the link to the video, and it will let you download the HD thumbnail without anything on it. But that's really the only tidbit of information I've been able to share with her that she hasn't already known. So, but yeah, they're always happy to help, and I'm happy to help them whenever I can. And it's just nice because you share tips and tricks and how to get past this, or if something's not working out, how to get it to work. And yeah, it's just nice having people that get it, because like I said, people in your day-to-day life that don't do YouTube aren't going to get it, and it's
Right.
very frustrating when you don't have that support network. And YouTube's been much more enjoyable since joining these groups, because it's like you don't feel alone anymore.
Mm, okay. It's kind of like a support group, if you will, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Like we just, for the most part, we just have fun times, and we just, play games or go on hour-long calls or whatever it may be. But there are times where like we need support, and we're more than happy to give it to each other. It's like a bonding experience, really.
Right. Speaking of games, you and your friends you mentioned already, the Elijahs of the world, Bill, Tomato Sauce. You guys doing these video game videos on YouTube. What has that been like, doing those collaborations with them and then going on their channel and also helping them out on that as well?
It's a lot of fun. Well, I had known Bill and Elijah beforehand, but I actually met Tomato Sauce through like the Gary's Mod video, and it was
Okay.
just so fun getting to meet him. Him doing his voices, and then Bill has the funniest one-liners. He doesn't even like, they're just zingers. Like he doesn't even think. He just says something, and it's hilarious. And
Yeah.
then me and Elijah are screaming at the top of our lungs because we don't know how to be quiet a day in our lives. And it's so chaotic but so fun, just being able to not focus on and it's also like a different type of content because you don't have to worry about copyrights when you upload it, or it's just about having fun or letting go and just being around people that not necessarily like coworkers, but like people that have the same job as you kind of thing. And just being able to connect and having like a kinship with people. It's really fun, especially the horror video games. Those ones are a little different.
Oh man, watching you guys do those is so fun.
Oh my god, we're literally laughing at each other. We're trying to like help each other through it, but we're also screaming. It's like it's such a chaotic time, but it's also so much fun to just just forget about our struggles for a bit and have fun playing a stupid game. And we're actually planning on doing Among Us soon.
Oh, okay.
With it's gonna be tomorrow night. We're actually filming it. It's gonna be Bill, Elijah, Tina, Moscow, tomato sauce, and me. So it's bound to be hectic.
I can already call it right now. I think Elijah did it. I'm calling it right now.
Listen, okay. Surprisingly, Moscow's the one you got to worry about because
really?
I got introduced to this game like a couple weeks ago. I was playing because they were teaching me how to play it. I watched her murder someone in front of me, and she convinced everyone I was lying. I was like,
see, that's why you got to be careful with her.
I know. So I have my eyes on Moscow, but Elijah's also sneaky, so you got to watch out for her and Bill.
Okay. Now, when you guys do these video game videos, is it okay, let's do these for the views, or is it just for you guys, you personally, and then you post it on your individual channels?
It's mostly just for fun.
Okay.
Like Elijah came up with the idea because she started gaming on her channel. The gaming thing isn't really going to stay on my channel just because I don't have the time to edit all these videos because I got to worry about getting my normal content up that does well. But like I'm always happy to take part in it, and it's also nice because you also send people over to your friends' channels as well. Like if someone watches my video and doesn't know who Tina or Moscow is, they'll go check out their channels. And it's the same way with Elijah. Like if someone doesn't know who Bill is or I am or Tomoda is, like they'll go check out our channels if they like the stuff they see from us in the video. So it's kind of like networking almost, but it's also just having a fun time. Like it's like a simultaneous. I can never say that word. Simultaneous. I can't. Whatever that word is.
I hear you. Don't listen. I was the same way with the word specific. I still can't say it. Sometimes when I'm not thinking about it, I can say it right. But when I'm thinking about it like right now, I can't say the word specifically.
I hate when that happens. And that's what I'm doing right now, too. I'm like, I can't say that stupid word. I hope people get the point across of what I'm trying to say.
I know. I simultaneously understand what you're saying.
Okay, good. Okay. Thank you. What the word Sam just used, that's what I was trying to say.
There you go. See? I'm here to help. I'm not used for a lot, but I'm here to help sometimes.
I appreciate the help. I need it constantly. Thank you.
Oh, of course, anytime. Now, when you're doing your videos, when you're going through with shows, you start going into the live action shows. Do you think about, okay, will this live action show do better than this one? Or do you, again, with your process when it comes to animation shows, do you go through that and see, or just like have it play out and hope for the best?
It's funny because I don't usually do live action. The only live action one I think I've done was Heartstopper. And the main reason I wanted to do that was I saw a lot of hype about it on TikTok. So I had like a rough idea of like, it's two gay, like teenagers dating. And a lot of the things we get in animation that we don't necessarily get, especially like PG-13 friendly, content. A lot of the same sex couples are like women or, a non-binary person and a woman. It's not a lot of male characters together. And if it is, it's usually like background, like two fathers, like one of the main characters has two fathers, like Willow or Bo from Sheer and the Princesses of Power. But I wanted to focus on a show that shed some light on, like a same-sex male couple, because it's not something I've ever reacted to on the channel, but I also think it's important for them to have that, what's the word? Exposure, like, and be treated the same as lesbian and like bisexual, like women couples. And that was my main reason for it. And a lot of people were saying like, it's a good show, and some people had recommended it. And so I was like, I just, out of curiosity, I want to check this show out. and it just brought me on like such a roller coaster of emotions. I was really glad I checked it out. Like I bought the books and everything. But it was just such a nice break from what you usually get with same-sex couples in reality TV, especially gay ones. They're usually like someone dies at the end, or they're broken up, or this or that. And it was just nice seeing like a healthy take on that. Um, and it also has like other characters. Like there's a main character that's transgender, and one of the guys in the same-sex couple is bisexual, and the other one is gay. And there's actually an Arrow Ace character, and it's just nice having like the multiple what's the word like having
Representation.
yeah, thank you. It's nice having different representation. It just doesn't just focus on the one. And
Right.
I always appreciate when a show does that, but I haven't really been like drawn to. I might do Wednesday when season 2 comes out.
Okay.
Just because I didn't know anything about the Addams Family before I watched Wednesday, and my
Mhm.
sister recommended it to me. Funnily enough, she never recommends shows to me, but unless they're like true crime, but no one wants to watch that. But
Hey, I don't know. There's an audience for that. I'm just letting you know.
oh, there is, but I think people would be disturbed by how much I'd already know about a case because I just listen to it constantly. But
Makes sense.
yeah, like sometimes even in Murder Drones, I made like a comment in this recent one about Jeffrey Dahmer, and I was like, oh god, I hope people don't get mad at me. But yeah, like I didn't think I was gonna like Wednesday, but I actually binged it in an entire night, and I was like, that
Oh, wow.
was actually so good, and I loved that. So once season 2 comes out, I think I'll do that. But I like mostly sticking to animation, mostly because that's just what I usually watch.
Mhm.
I just prefer animation over live action. But yeah, Heartstopper I definitely plan to do because it's just such a sweet show, and I love the representation and the messages, and Charlie and Nick are adorable. So I'm here for the queer, as I always say.
And as you are, you represented well. There was a point you brought up in that last answer that you gave. In Medium, we don't see a lot of same-sex male. We see either a lesbian or bisexual, non-binary. Why do you think it's more geared towards a lesbian, non-binary, bisexual couples instead of the same-sex male? Because we did have a very successful show on ABC produced by Fox called Modern Family, which one of the two leads were two gay men. Why do you think kind of nowadays it's kind of slowing down a bit, in your opinion?
I honestly don't know. Like part of the reason I think people are so accepting of like women same-sex couples or like non-binary in a woman same-sex couple is
Mhm.
because it's fetishized, if that makes sense. Or it's
Mm,
like more people like the idea of two women together than two men. And personally, like I wasn't necessarily like part of that problem, but I didn't realize until getting into Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss, I didn't have
right.
any same-sex male ships. And that's something I realized, and I'm like, why haven't I ever? I don't know if it's because like I identify as like technically I'm asexual, but I like to say I'm a lesbian because, you know, the whole sexual identity thing with asexuals. There's like uh, sex repulse, sex indifferent, and then sex positive. I like to think I'm like independent, but like if I had to, it would only be with a woman. Like I couldn't do that with a man. So I like to use the term lesbian, even though technically I'm like asexual.
Mhm.
Um, but being like a lesbian, I've always just drifted more towards same-sex female couples because like I live vicariously through them,
Right.
being a single lesbian. But um, like I kind of felt like I was the problem as well because I'm like, why haven't I ever just like seen two male characters together and just like shipped it? Um, and yeah, I couldn't help but feel like I was part of the problem for that. But I'm trying to be more mindful of it now. Um, and
Do
but
you,
like back to your point. I'm sorry, I derailed there
no,
for
no,
a
you're
bit.
good. I was going to ask, do you think it's easier for the consumer to digest in a way, going presenting a female couple instead of a male?
It very well could be because
Okay.
as society, we just have these stupid ideas and things drilled into our heads that some things are more acceptable than others. Like I think society as a whole finds two women together more acceptable than two men together.
Hmm.
And to the point where like even back in like the 70s and 80s there were like sodomy laws to target gay men. They didn't necessarily have those type of laws for, gay women. And it's kind of like I don't really understand the hatred towards it. I never have. That could just be being part of the LGBT community. And even as a child, I never understood the hate towards, same-sex couples. I never understood like why it's anyone else's business. But
Exactly.
I think it has a lot to do with society and the way people were raised. And again, I think it has a lot to do with fetishization. I can never say that word either. But
Okay.
like
Fetishization, the second word.
Yeah.
Word you cannot say. I wrote
Everyone
that
get
down.
your bingo cards out. Which one's more going to get wrong next? Mark them off. See if you get bingo. But
I'm hoping for onomatopoeia.
onomatopoeia. Oh God, I don't even know what that word means, but I've heard it before. But yeah, I just think it's something stupid as society, especially over here in America, that we've somehow decided that like I don't know, like the majority, like even my father's the same way. When I came out to him, he was like, I don't have a problem with you being a lesbian because I get it. I'm attracted to women, but like gay men, I'll never understand. And it was like, well, that wasn't comforting because if I was born a guy and I was attracted to guys, I feel like that this would turn out much differently. It's like
Yeah.
you thought it was a comforting thing to say, but it really wasn't. Um, and I don't know. It's just, and it's also the older generation tends to be, less friendly towards same-sex male couples,
Right.
for whatever freaking reason. But they also
They're very they're very set in their ways.
yeah. The older generation, you can't tell them anything.
No, no, true. And me personally, I identify straight, but I don't care honestly if someone is gay, straight, bisexual, heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, pansexual. I don't care. As long as you're a good person, cool, do you. If you're a terrible person, want nothing to do with you.
Yeah, exactly. That I don't understand why more people can't think like that. Like it's like you don't have to like someone to respect them and let them just live their own lives as long as they're not hurting themselves or others.
Exactly. Because there are evil people everywhere, no matter what they identify or anything like that. They're just hate will be everywhere. It's just unfortunately that's just the way of life.
Oh, exactly. Like I could not agree more. These are the things that keep me up. I was about to say at night, but I work at night. These are the things that keep me up during the day when I'm trying to sleep.
Right. And no, and I really thank you for that answer because really not a lot of people can't get their voices out like that. Because going back to your channel, you did a whole video on coming out. How important to you was that? Doing that way back when?
I don't even remember why I did it. Because I didn't really have like a channel back then, and I was like in Hey Arnold, and Hey Arnold it has like the one gay teacher, so it didn't even really have that much like representation. But it was just something I wanted to do. I just wanted my audience to know me better. And because like I don't like hiding things from people, if that makes sense. Like I feel really guilty when I can't give someone a straight up answer that sounds like a pun. It wasn't meant to be a pun, but take that as you will. But yeah, because the reason I hadn't come out publicly is because I wasn't out to my parents yet.
Okay.
And I was terrified because while I thought they'd be accepting, you see all these videos online of people coming out to their parents they think are going to be accepting, and then they get disowned or something. And that was like my fear, and I'd been putting it off for a while. And originally I was like, when I get a girlfriend, I'll tell them. And at the time, I think I was like 20 or 21, and I still didn't have a girlfriend. So I decided to get a tattoo on my chest, actually. It's like a skin tear, and then under the tear, it's like a rainbow flag.
Okay.
And my thinking was, well, one, I just like the tattoo, but also the placement it is. I wear tank tops in the summer, and my parents will see it. So it kind of forces me to, come out eventually. Like I have a while to think about it, but like it kind of pressures me because I didn't like living the lie either.
Right.
And it's funny because they didn't even think I was a lesbian. They thought I was transgender because of the way I present myself. And I was like, I should probably clear that up because my father actually has a friend whose kid was going by non-binary and still is, I believe. But his friend didn't know how to talk to his child about it, and he was like, well, I can have Morgan talk to they said him at the time because they didn't know what non-binary meant. They thought it was like transgender.
Right.
I think it falls under the transgender umbrella technically, but yeah, different thing.
I try not to get involved because if I don't know, I try to excuse myself from the conversation.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I think people have told me that before. But my memory's
Okay.
also crap. So I'm like, how much about this am I misremembering? But
Right.
yeah. So like, I was like, I should probably clear that up too. Um, but yeah, yeah, I don't know. And I got a lot of positive comments on that, and that's why like nowadays, now that I react to things, because I came out before I did the reaction videos.
Right.
Um, and now in my reaction videos, I try to make it very apparent that like you shouldn't be ashamed of who you are. You can't control these things about yourself. Because I personally, growing up, I tried to change so much about myself. I tried to be straight, or at the very least bisexual. I was somehow convinced that would be like less frowned upon. Um, and it just wasn't working out. And it was years of torment and just doing things I didn't want to do and trying to be someone I wasn't. That I just want to be out there and show people that you can be yourself and you will find a community of people that care about you, and you don't have to pretend to be something you're not. If I hope I'm saying that right. I'm not good with words. Like I'm not good with words.
And no, that was perfect. Um, when you were saying all this right now, someone listening, what do you hope they get out of it? You think? Do you feel like, okay, if you're being as open as you are, going through the struggles that you went through, do you feel like someone listening could be like, okay, that'll give them the courage to be who they really are, no matter what that may be?
I hope so. That's always like what I hope for other people. Like people always ask me about coming out, but at the end of the day, you have to do it when you're ready. Don't let people
Right.
pressure it into you. Also, I speak from a place of privilege where I live in the United States, where you don't say you're gay and you're put immediately to death, where in other
Mm-hmm.
countries you are. So obviously, I try to specify to people, if you don't live in an LGBT, I wouldn't necessarily call America a LGBT friendly place either, these days
Yeah.
anyway. But like you can't be like legally put to death because of it.
Right.
I always tell people to, proceed with caution, try and get out of there where you can be yourself, this and that. But I always tell people to like try and just follow their gut. I try and give people advice if I can, but at the same time, I feel like I'm not worthy of giving advice because there's circumstances that will change my answer, but I don't necessarily know those circumstances. So I always try to proceed with caution. But at the end of the day, I want everyone to get to a happy place where they can just be happy being themselves. And I want them to know that you can be who you're not and people will still hate you for it, or you could be who you are and people will still hate you for it. There's no pleasing everyone, and that's something you need to come with terms with. I myself still struggle with that to this day. I want to please everyone all the time and be what everyone needs me to be, but it's not humanly possible. And just be yourself. You'll be so much happier. Don't let people put you down for who you love or who you don't love, or who you're attracted to, who you're not attracted to, because it really is no one's business other than your own at the end of the day. And if you're not hurting yourself or someone else, it's no one else's business.
Exactly. And thank you so much for putting that out there, because someone out there is probably listening and needed to hear that. And you probably just changed someone's life right now. So thank you for that, Morgan.
Oh, I'm more than happy to help, honestly, especially in these trying times, especially against the trans community. I'm like, you are
Hmm.
loved, you are valid, you have a reason to exist, people love you. Like, that's what I tell people on my channel. I'm like, I don't know you personally, but I just love you being here. Like, like you have a place in this world. I want you around. I don't know you personally. Like, I don't want to form a parasocial relationship, but I'm like, that doesn't mean I can't care about someone or value a human life.
No, absolutely. And I think a lot of people nowadays are losing that sense of just ignoring the hate and just accepting people for who they are.
Hmm.
And just, yeah, we live in such a weird, strange world, because I know probably like 10 years ago, we were a little more accepting.
Yeah.
And then who know? I mean, I know a lot happened since then that led to where we are now. We're not going to get into all of that.
I'm trying to keep my mouth shut.
Let's not jump into that rabbit hole.
Oh no, I know. That's why I'm like, refrain.
um, another subject I'd like to talk to you about is the growth of your channel, and where do you see your channel growing from here? Do you see yourself doing more reactions? Do you see doing more gaming stuff? And going through what you're going through right now with work and scheduling, what's kind of like your mindset going forward?
I honestly don't know what's in store. Like when I started YouTube, I didn't think it was ever going to get to what it got to. I literally used my actual name because I was not expecting to ever be anything. Um and I'm like, at this point, is it too late to change it? Like like people aren't going to be able to
Hey,
find me.
branding is everything. Okay, I mean, if you can put a little this, little that on there and say, I mean, Lesbian Reacts is already taken by Elijah, unfortunately. She already claimed that name.
Oh, the not so average fangirl.
Yeah, not so average fangirl.
I know. I'm like, that would have been such a perfect name. Or like not maybe the fangirl part, but like I don't know, not so average emotional disaster or something. But
Hey, well.
I'm not creative with like usernames, but it's like it's gotten to the point where my channel has grown where I'm like, if I change it, are people gonna be able to find me if they're not subscribed? That's been like a big thing for me. But as far as like my future with YouTube, I would like to keep doing it. It would be cool to do it full time and to like get like more of a community just because that's just it's gonna sound awful, but I like positive attention because that's not really something I get in my day-to-day life. So I'm like, I get all of the attention I don't really get in my day-to-day life online. And that might sound super weird, but that's just how I cope. But yeah, it would be nice to like, I don't know if necessarily do it full time, but I'd also like to get into animation and work on like cool projects. I love like meeting people that worked on other things. Someone on my Lackadaisy video, when I reacted to it, actually worked on the show and commented. And I just found it so cool that someone that watched my channel for a while worked on something I was reacting to. And like even Avi Roque, I've like DM'd them a couple times and spoken to them on a couple occasions. Why did my Windows thing just pop up? Stop distracting me. I was on a roll. Yeah, I just like, I don't know. I like meeting new people and like being, I would like to like be able to work on things and come together, like even voice acting I was thinking about getting into. But I'm like hesitant with that because I'm like, I've never been in drama or anything, or I never, you know, did any of the classes or this and that. So it's like I like to try a bunch of different things. But at the end of the day, I would like to work on like an animation project, I think, and just be able to create something like so cool or be part of a team that creates something that inspires others or that means a lot to other people. And I don't know if I'll have to put YouTube on the side for that when I get to that point, but I guess I'll just take it as I go and I'll just see what the future holds.
Well, I do believe the future is bright for you, Morgan. I have to say thank you because talking to you, talking to Elijah, Not So Average Fangirl, Rebecca Rose last week, really gave me like kind of the confidence that I'm gaining right now to post more of my interviews because I've done a lot of interviews before and I've been not afraid but tentative about posting them on YouTube because I mean who's gonna listen to them, who's gonna watch, I mean I don't know, but just talking to you guys has really helped me break out of that shell and try to put not listen or worry about so much of what I can't control. And it's just yes, no, thank you very much.
Oh, dude, we're happy to help, honestly. Like we hate that people have to feel like so insecure and worried about things. And I don't know much about Rebecca. I've never spoken to her personally, but yeah, she seems like a chill person, and I know Elijah well enough to say she's more than happy to help with this stuff as well as I am. And you, let me just say, you are a really good interviewer.
Oh, stop.
No, I'm serious. Like Elijah and I were talking about this because when I was on the phone with her last night, she's like, "Yeah, Sam's really good at interviewing. He asks really important questions. He does like background and all that stuff." And I was like, "That's really impressive," because I feel like a lot of interview people, they just interview you about a certain topic. They don't necessarily like dive into your background or things that like different fields of interest kind of thing. And it's just a really nice treat to like be able to talk about things that aren't necessarily just, you know, just the Owl House or just Shira or just, you know, this. And I really appreciate it. So thank you so much for having me. It was a nice experience.
No, absolutely. And that's the one thing about me. Like I have the privilege and honor just to talk to you because you could be doing anything right now. You could be asleep, getting ready for work right now, but no, you're talking with me. I want to make sure I make the most of my time, get to know you, get to know Elijah, and just because I mean, honestly, I could just be here just saying, "Oh, how much you like the Owl House? How great was episode this? How great was episode that? How much you hate that character? And how generic, boring that would have been, you know." And I would have been just I probably would never even talk to you or Elijah or Rebecca again if I was that same robotic person, you know?
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace because those are the comments you're constantly getting, or when you do live streams, it's a lot of the same questions, like what's your favorite
Yeah.
episode of the Owl House? Who's your favorite character? And it's just nice getting like uh giving an answer you have to actually think about that you haven't said like 30,000 times already.
Right.
And I just want to thank you for that because, and my time is not valuable in any way, shape, or form. Let me tell you, like, you are not inconveniencing me by asking me to be here. I'm happy to be here. Tonight's actually a night off too, so that helped.
Oh, perfect.
But yeah, I'm happy to be here, and just thank you for taking the time to, get to know me and the other YouTubers, and it just means a lot. And getting like this personal connection where it's not just what we do, but it's like our backgrounds and stuff like that. That means a lot to us.
No, yeah, absolutely. Because when I was doing my research for Elijah, just learning so much about her that I didn't even know what she'd been through is really inspirational. I told her this. I keep saying on her Discord, it's inspirational what she's been through, and talking to you, learning more about you and your background is just, man, just learning about the person
Hmm.
is equally as important as the work as they do, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, like I appreciate you think that way because a lot of people think like, oh, YouTubers they have it easy. They probably didn't work hard to get here, and it's like a lot of people don't understand like the hard work that goes into like even not even just YouTube, just like content creation in general. Like I'm sure you
Yeah.
experience it with the podcast. It's it's a lot
Yeah.
of work, and it's like people just see the end product. They don't know the hours of editing or tinkering, or if you have to re-record something or this and that. And people just think like we have it easy because we create content. It's like, no, the final thing you see is not how long it took us to do. It probably took us like 5 times that amount of the final product to get this stuff out to you. And a lot of people, especially with channels that blow up quick, they think like, oh, well, they got lucky. Or like people think like if they start, they're going to get lucky like that. And it's like, no, you have to work your way up and you really have to put in the time and the effort. And yeah, so like a whole misconception with like not even YouTubers but just content creators in general, which I wish more people would understand because they're like, where's this reaction? It's like, I have a life, I can't just do this all the time. So yeah.
No, absolutely. And we honestly, we could be here for another maybe hour just talking about life and everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm winding you down. I feel like I'm wearing you out. I don't want to use up all the words that you know.
That's fine. I appreciate that. I have a very limited vocabulary, so I appreciate that very much.
Of course. Again, thank you, Morgan Terry, for joining me today. Where could people find you online on social media if they want to look you up?
Well, my YouTube is Morgan Terry because I'm not creative at all. My Instagram and Twitter are Doodlebug Morg. I had some creation with that. I mostly post like art and on Instagram it's mostly art, or on my stories I just post like shenanigans or whatever I'm up to. On Twitter I usually just share fandom stuff, or if someone does fan art or whatever it may be, it's just cool things I just retweet and post and this and that. And then on TikTok, I don't even have like a brand for TikTok necessarily. It's just random crap. It's Oxy Morgan, like oxymoron, but it's Morgan instead of moron, but they kind of go hand in hand.
Right.
But yeah, those are my socials.
As long as we can find you, that's all that matters. Okay.
Yeah, well, maybe some people shouldn't find me. I'm afraid for some people to find me, like my coworkers. But yeah, and thank you again, man, for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, absolutely. And thank you for your time. It was so great. Again, great. Thank you for your stories, your struggles, your success, everything you've been on the channel, everything that's going to happen for your channel. Um, Everyone, make sure you follow her on everywhere that she just said. Make sure you follow me on YouTube as Sam Macias, Talking Sam Podcast. On any you can listen to Talking Sam Podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Facebook at Sam Macias, Twitter, SamMac55, Instagram at Sam Macias5. And if you know anyone out there that is someone like Morgan, has a channel that is growing, still continue to grow, send it my way. I would love to talk to him, love to open up and see where it can, what stories that can lead to. Thank you, Morgan, again. Make sure you guys check my other interviews out with Elijah De Jesus from Not So Average Fangirl, Rebecca Rose, and I've done some other interviews in the past. I'm going to be posting them soon, and some people from all backgrounds when it comes to sports, entrepreneuring, entertainment, anything. Keep your eye out. Thank you so much. And Morgan, you want to join me on the Bible quick?
All right, give me a
All right,
countdown.
let's go. 1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Bye.